Good morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Channelside in the Morning Show, live on the Channelside Sports Network. You know me, I'm Danny, and you know him. He's Evan, and he's back. He is back.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Tag a friend. Right, there you go. We've got a lot to unpack today, Evan, but I think where we've got to start with this bad boy,
it's a death in the family.
It is a death. It's a very untimely death, unfortunately. And yeah.
Do you want me to try and do it?
Please try.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best thing to do.
It starts off so goddamn promising, man. It really does. The Choco Taco is
there you go. We have another
wait,
one.
I've got hold on.
Do you have that one? There you go. There you go.
You know, the sound you just made reminds me of watching The Price is Right with my grandmother.
Really? Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like, when they would fail on something and Bob Barker would be like, nope. Oh, man. You know what's crazy, though, is, we were talking about this before we went on air. I'm upset that the Choco Taco is gone, but I don't know why. Because
what's the reasoning why they discontinued the Choco Taco?
I don't know. I was a headline reader on this one because it didn't really affect me where I was like, oh, I can't eat it again. But it was just one of those things where you're like, yeah, it's probably going to be around forever.
It's the death of nostalgia once again.
1984. I didn't realize it came out in 1984.
Wow, a year after I was born.
Came out a year after you.
I know.
That's old, man. That's been around for a long time.
I just want to know the reasoning. Did sales plummet for the Choco Taco?
I mean,
for the decision to make it discontinued was sales are down for Choco Taco.
Yeah. Do you think? And hold on, before we dive into this, for those that are tuning in on Twitter right now, I see some guys coming in on Facebook as well. Welcome to Channelside in the Morning here on the Channelside Sports Network. We appreciate you tuning in. We're going to get to some sports stuff. We're going to talk about the Rays. We're going to talk about the insanely wild ride we're about to have on the AL East for the remainder of the season. If what the Rays have are currently enough to make the playoffs, we're going to talk a lot about training camp opening up tomorrow. We've got a fun little wide receiver trio, rank them. Kyler Murray apparently has homework now. Lamar Jackson is a piece of trash when it comes to being a quarterback, apparently, according to an anonymous NFL defensive coordinator. And then, of course, Todd Bowles continues to get absolutely no love, and we're going to try to figure out why that is. But we are currently talking about the Choco Taco and the death of the Choco Taco.
Okay, that's all I got. I can't do the high notes anymore.
It starts so high. It really does.
Yeah.
That's a peak in a valley, my friend, if I've ever heard one. If I had to guess, I would have assumed that the Choco Taco sold better than a regular Klondike bar.
No, I would disagree on that because Klondike bars are so popular. They have different flavors of like Klondike bar, and they have Klondike bar minis, Klondike bar like Reese's, peanut butter cup, like Heath Bar Crunch, Nestle Crunch. Like they have so many different types of Klondike bars. If the Choco Taco was that popular, you would think they would have different flavors of the Choco Taco. So plus, when have you ever seen a national spot for a Choco Taco? Because remember, a huge national commercial campaign for what would you do for a Klondike bar? You don't see I've never seen a commercial for the Choco Taco.
Do you? And that is a fair assessment. But let me ask you this. Do you know anybody outside of those in the commercial under the age of 60 that are actively buying Klondike bars?
I buy Klondike bars.
Well, you're right around that age range, though. So
60, really? I'm only 20 years away. I don't know what the census is now for ice cream sandwiches for the younger generation.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll buy one of those Fat Boy ice cream sandwiches for damn sure. But
I don't know. I don't really know what the commercial sales figure numbers are for like
Klondike bars are just like, I don't know. The Klondike bars have never really done anything for me. Even like the Reese's ones. Because I love Reese's peanut butter cups.
The best one I think of is the Klondike bar like crunchy. It's like more crunchy than the other ones where like
it's like the Nestle Crunch.
Yeah, it's like the Nestle Crunch coating on the outside instead of like just plain. I like Klondike bars. I mean, I like them better than
I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad, but I only get Klondike bars if they're like buy one get one free at Publix.
Yeah, that's the only time I do. Other than that, I'm not really a big ice cream person per se. So the Klondike would be the go-to if like, hey, you're right. If there's a buy one get one, because I'm not going to go to the store. Hey, I need to get a bunch of Klondike bars. No, I'm not in that mode.
There might be a time in your life where you become in that mode, though.
I don't think so.
And we're gonna be like, I went to Publix yesterday, and I got.
I was so excited because they had the Klondike bars on special, so I had to get them.
I really wish that I could like whistle my S's at the end of my words, but I can't do that. That's way too hard.
Oh, this is just a story about how I came about.
See, it's hard. You can't quite get it like the old dude from Family Guy.
Oh.
Hey, boy, bring your fat ass over here. Don't forget your poops and peas.
Good Lord. We're gonna jump in. We're gonna start right with this because I feel like this is going to be like kind of the foundation of what we're gonna talk about when it comes to the Rays. Ben Verlander of MLB on Fox. I've never seen any other sport do this, and I know a lot of it has to do with how baseball is really broken down into halves when it comes to seasons. But these are where he is predicting teams rank for the second half of the season.
I thought he does this every single week, though.
No, this is his second half of the season power rankings.
Oh, okay. Because he usually puts up one every single week. So this is the
right, yeah.
Okay.
But I've never seen it where it's like, oh yeah, for the entire second half, I think this is where it's going to be, which to me is interesting.
So I can agree with everything on this list except for Toronto being at 6, because Toronto is up in that rankings at 6 because they beat the living hell out of the Red Sox, who the Red Sox are now doing another nosedive.
40 runs.
So if you're gonna, I can't see how he can put them at the 6 in the second half when before the second half of the season was done, before the All-Star break, they weren't doing too well.
Mm-hmm.
So how could you put them at number 6 unless you're like basing this on?
Maybe they get another new manager.
Maybe. Unless you're basing this on like the first week of coming out of the second half, like out of the All-Star break, where they just demolished, the Red Sox for that many runs. If you're basing it on that, then I still wouldn't put them at 6. That's way too high for Toronto. This is another one of the times where Toronto's getting streaky against like below average teams, and then once I don't think so.
Inconspicuous by their absence is Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, why didn't you put the Orioles there? I mean,
but you know what's crazy here is you look at
this
and you go, okay, so there's what? The Yankees, the Blue Jays, there's 3 AL East teams on there, which is exactly kind of, what we were thinking was going to happen for the remainder of the season, because this division has become so tight and so close knit that it's, we looked at there was starting to be a little separation.
No, there's not anymore.
Outside of the Yankees, right? Between second and third, you looked and you're like, okay, there's a few games in separation now, but it's not going to be there. It's going to be like this. It's going to be a shuffle, in my opinion, for the remainder of the season, which is good for the baseball fan, for the generic, regular, average fan, but it is terrible if you're a fan of any of the teams that are in this mix, because you're going to be like, oh, we're good. Oh, we're bad. Oh, we're good. Oh, we're bad. Oh my God. Are we going to make the playoffs? Like, of course we know that the Rays got smoked yesterday, 5-1, right? that also dropped because, we talk about this all the time because I think it's relevant information, but the Rays dropped another 9% in playoff wildcard odds. They went from 71% where you're like, okay, I'm pretty confident, now down to 62%. And they're only a half game up with the Mariners in the second wildcard spot. I know it's the end of July. Obviously, we still have time left, but I feel like they're going to end up falling out of that wild card. They're going to climb back in. They're going to fall back out. And it's just, that's where we are at this point in the season. And it's, I don't know. Are you ready for this wild ride?
I am, because I love this time. I love this time of year when it comes to baseball, especially when you have a wild card race this close for the top 5 teams in this race now. Because looking at it overall, I mean, you have the Jays, the Rays, and the Mariners are pretty much separated by a game, and then the Guardians, the Red Sox, and the Orioles are 3 games back. I mean, that's that's not that's scary to me because
that's one series, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially with the Orioles playing the Rays right now, and the Orioles just won the first one. So if you're winning the next 2, the Orioles are right back in it again. So this really is kind of depending on. Now, look, not to take anything from the Rays. The Rays, we all know, are going to be in it, but they have so many guys on the IL right now. It is you are playing with a makeshift team with so many minor league guys that are coming up to fill in the spots that we need. And now that we have, KK and Zunino that are out for the rest of the year, it kind of really depends on which out of those teams that are really in the thick of it are going to make the best moves at the trade deadline to really help them out going to make the rest of the run. And if I'm the Rays, if it's sustainable to have them be in the race and sustainable to stay in it, it's yes and no. Yes, it's sustainable that they're going to be in the thick of it. Is it sustainable good segue. Is it going to be enough? I don't think it's going to be enough because all those other teams are pretty much healthy and are playing really good baseball against, they're playing good baseball against the teams you need to play it against. And Danny, we've said this before weeks ago that even the Rays said this themselves. They're playing to the level of their opponent. Like against the Royals, you shouldn't have dropped 2 out of 3 against the Royals. That's inexcusable right now. Where you could have kind of widened you could have widened your first place wild card lead even more by a couple of games by beating the Royals, but you only won 1 and you looked like shit against the Royals. And now you're coming into Baltimore and you dropped the first one against Baltimore. So I really do think it's kind of depending on what they do at the deadline, which is coming up, and it's pretty much this week. So, for all the rumors that they could be in the Juan Soto sweepstakes, or now you really kind of need a catcher now. You could be in the sweepstakes. You could go after Wilson Contreras from Chicago because you're going to need a viable option catcher. Nothing to take away from Francisco Mejia, but you really kind of need that veteran catcher presence, especially if you're going to make a playoff run. So it's really, I put that Twitter poll out is, would you rather have them make a huge move for the trade deadline, or would you rather have them make small little moves to really kind of fill in those spots? It's really kind of what they want to do. I'm all for them making, if they want to go after Juan Soto and put all your chips in it, go ahead. Would it be smart to go after just one big player? I don't think it should. I don't think they would make that kind of move now with everybody on the IL. You gotta make the small little moves to help them out. So
too many holes to plug them.
Yeah, you have too many holes to fill to go after one guy that you think is going to help you get over the hump. I would rather see them go and go after Wilson Contreras, go after Anthony Venditti from Kansas City, go after another pitcher, make small moves instead of making the one large one. I mean, I know no, Shohei Ohtani's he may be on the block, even though the Angels saying he's not, but I don't know, man. This is the fun time of year. This is where you had my curiosity before, but now you have my attention.
If I like that, if we're being honest, is any player really not ever on the block?
Right.
If you call me and you're like, hey, I got this deal here. You know what I mean? It's exactly what you just said, which is, it has nothing to do with like the trading option, but it's like, yeah, now you've got my attention.
Yeah.
Right. Like, is Ohtani on them? Possibly, if the offer is good enough, and I posed this question yesterday. We see a lot of Rays fans that are like, I'm so proud of this team. They've done so well. They're so injured. There's so many guys up here. They shouldn't be good. Like that's basically the mentality, right? Is like they shouldn't be in the position they're in because they're so banged up, and we've got so many guys from Durham that are on here. And then you go, okay, well, I thought we had the best farm system. Why are we acting like we're surprised that the farm system is actually the players from the system are performing well? Like, I feel like that's such a weird dynamic. So where I go, okay, well, if you're not really that confident in it, then why are you like, well, we can't trade them away to get Juan Soto? And you're like, well, but you're surprised that they're playing well. Right. Like, to me, like, what is it? Like, which way are we looking at it? Because it's completely the opposite side of the spectrum. And it's literally the same people that may be on radio and media that are saying things like this, where you're like, all right, it just, to me, that doesn't make sense. That's a very weird and skewed take.
I could see the mentality about how everybody's saying, I'm so proud of this team. I am proud of them for the way they've been resilient with what they've had to deal with. But it also comes in the mind of, okay, if they're staying with it with the makeshift lineup and roster that they have, what does that say about the other teams in the AL East? You know what I mean?
It's true. That is very true. I mean, because every team in the AL East has had a long stretch of losing.
Right. I don't know, man. It's an interesting conundrum that we have with this team, because it's funny because it changes every couple of weeks with them, and like how well they're doing. Oh, hey, everything's back to normal. We're winning. We're playing good baseball, and then all of a sudden we fall flat in our faces, and then it's like, okay, are we going to be concernicus now because they've dropped back in the wild card race? Should we be concerned about this current slide? What are we being really concerned about? So,
and I think that's the difference. That's where we are different, because we're looking at big picture. Mm-hmm. We're not looking at like, oh, well, how do we stay above 500 2 weeks from now?
Right.
We're like, no, how do we bring the commissioner's trophy to Tampa? Like, how do we do that? Right? Like, all you have to do, we talk about this all the time, and I weighed in heavily on this yesterday. All you have to do is make it to the dance.
Right.
Where the Rays are currently, they should, and I would expect them to. And like I said, there's going to be a time where they probably fall below 50% in terms of playoff odds. I just feel everything is too close knit right now. And I don't want people to start crapping their pants and waving a white flag.
At my confidence level with this team, if they had to play, let's just say hypothetically they have to play the Blue Jays in the wild card, I'm confident enough they would beat the Blue Jays in the wild card. Now, if they have to face Houston or New York, I'm not so confident about that. I'm really not. They just
and I guess it depends, because if the Rays come in as the quote unquote worst team to make the playoffs, there's nobody to play down against.
True.
So we don't really have to worry about them going like, we're going to play against Seattle Mariners, or we're going to play against the Detroit Tigers, and we're going to lose 37-2. Like, we don't have to worry about that.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say that, because they play to the level of their opponent, so maybe they'll play their best against the best teams in the league right now.
Yeah,
I'm just I just want to start hearing chatter about okay, the Rays are starting to make some phone calls about this player, this player, and this player. I want to see them make, some moves, man. If the fans want a championship, at least I hope they do. Let's this year, move some of your top prospects and get some guys in here,
right?
Because you guys are down guys.
And that's the thing, is right now, this is not a championship roster.
No, it's not.
This is a roster good enough to get to the playoffs, yes. But it's not a championship caliber roster. And that should always be the goal. Mm-hmm. That's what we've been saying since probably the very first show, when we alienated ourselves with the Rays fan base, is every team in every sport should be a championship or bust mentality. That's all it should be. That's the only reason you play your sport. That's the only reason why you bought the franchise is to win the championship. You didn't buy the franchise to be like, hey, I own a baseball team.
Danny,
Well,
let me ask you this. Do you see them going out and making the necessary moves that they need to make at the trade deadline?
I can see them making a couple minor moves. I don't know. I don't know.
But minor enough. But minor enough that they're going to be necessary to fill in the gaps. Like necessary enough where it's going to be like, okay, we need a catcher. We're going to go make a move for a catcher. Do you see them make like any kind of move like that? Or hey, we need to at least get one more starting pitcher in here. Do you see them making any kind of move for that?
I could see them making a move for a pitcher.
All right. What about a big bat? What about, hey,
we need to
maybe boister up the offense just a little bit more?
I don't see that happening. Okay. What about you? Do you see it?
I'm not that confident because we've seen this. We know the song and dance before with this team about making like moves, and look, I know last year we went and traded for Nelson Cruz and everything, but that wasn't enough. Everybody thought, oh my God, we got Nelson Cruz now. He's a big bat. He's going to help us out the rest of the way. He didn't really help us out the rest of the way.
Right.
And that was kind of like, that was really the only move we made at the trade deadline that was significant enough. And I don't know, man. Like, I know we need help. I just don't see them. I don't see them doing it.
Right. Well, here's my thing on the Nelson Cruz take. And this isn't your take, but this is, we how many times have you had this conversation with other Rays fans where they go, oh, well, we can't trade for Juan Soto. Look what happened when we got Nelson Cruz. We had Nelson Cruz when he was 41 years old.
True.
Let's be real. Like, you know what I mean? if we're comparing the current home run derby champion, who's also, how old is Juan Soto? Like 25, 24 years old?
Yeah, he's in his early 20s, mid 20s. He's relatively young. He's young.
I mean, he's not a 41-year-old at the end of his career. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's what that is. Mm-hmm. That's a different trade. Yeah, and then you also have Juan Soto under contract for 2 more years. If you do make a trade for him. Is he the be-all, end-all? No, but he's the biggest name that's being talked about and being available. So that's the name that is relevant in these conversations, especially when you're lacking offense.
Right. I'm happy that
I am happy as well. I'm not sure what Evan was happy about.
That was weird.
Evan said he's happy and then left.
Happy.
Whoa, hey.
I'm happy that the Rays are like they were put in the mix yesterday with that kind of like that GM report that came out where these are the teams that are probably in the mix for Soto. I'm pretty happy about that. That goes to say, okay, they are probably going to make an offer. So that's
right.
Just like kind of like they did with Freddie Freeman is they made an offer. They're going to try and be in the mix as much as they can. So that does go to show me that they are kind of trying to make that impact of a big splash at the deadline. Is it going to be enough? I don't know. It's just funny to me that we have like one of the top farm systems in the league, and when we offer these top prospects, teams don't want them. They were just like, nope, we don't want you. These guys.
And like for me, that's where you go. Okay, so like the translation. So I talked a lot about like in college football yesterday, right? Like the University of Florida for the last 5 years is one of the top ranked teams in getting 4- and 5-star recruits.
Mm-hmm.
Who is rating these recruits? Because the Gators have not been good for the last handful of years. And the same thing goes with our farm system for the Rays. Like, who is saying like this is the greatest? I know they're winning championships, right? But that means that roster is good. The coaching staff there is good. That doesn't necessarily mean that the players are standout superstars. That could just be a New England Patriots style plug and play system, a Tampa Bay Lightning plug and play system where you're like, hey, we've got nobody that really, really, truly stands out here, but everybody that's here fits together like a perfectly cut puzzle piece.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're winning championships. So like, to me, that's where you go, okay, is this do we actually have the best farm system, quote unquote, for creating superstars? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. it just it boggles my mind, and I'm not going to use bottle in this one. It boggles my mind is because every single year we're 1 or 2 in the farm system, and then when these guys come up, they're back in the minors just like that.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Confidence wise, they're going to be in this thing until the very end. I just want at the deadline, I want to see moves that are necessary for the team to go to get over that hump, to separate themselves from everybody else.
Right, for sure.
And also to put a little like a booster in, people coming to the stadium and having like a lot of eyes on. We're going into football, folks. So the drop off of Rays baseball viewers is probably going to drop off a lot because the Bucks are, here. They're
second favorites to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, NFL is back. So, focus on baseball is not going to be as much as a big thing in the Tampa Bay area as it was for, a little bit of the summer. Like football's back. So the eyes and ears are on that now.
We'll still be here though.
We'll be here
talking about it on Channelside Sports. Shane McClanahan has 147 strikeouts on the season, which is he's dropped to 4th, but he's only dropped to 4th because he's pitched 9 innings less than Dylan Cease, Garrett Cole, and Corbin Burns. What I find crazy about this is he's also leading all of those guys in strikeouts per game with 12 per game.
It's nasty, dude.
So, and then if you break it down even more, that means that 44% of your game is basically over with before it even starts if you're going against Sugar Shane McClanahan on the mound.
I hope he it's not. I hope he doesn't turn out like a Blake Snell.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't turn out like that.
Can't believe you even threw that juju out there.
I'm doing. Hey, look. When these guys have really good seasons and then they get their monster contracts, it just seems like we're not going to play as well as we used to. That's all I'm saying. And
you're not.
Although Shane is not as douchey as he's not a douche like Blake Snell was.
No, that's true.
Yeah,
he's from Cape Coral. Cape Coral people are
very humble
and interesting.
Very humble
and interesting. But I mean, where I wanted to go with that is obviously we know Corey Kluber was on the mound last night, and he's 6-6 on the season, whereas Shane McClanahan is 10-3 on the season. And I know we can't really compare where they are at in their careers, but man, if Corey Kluber is like one of the better options that we have in the starting rotation, they have to make a move because his season's just not been great.
It's been inconsistent because he has there has been times where when he's pitched, he looks fantastic. He looks like Kluber of old time, but like then there's other times where he just looks very, very terrible. So inconsistency with him, and he was brought in to be like that Charlie Morton-esque, type of guy in the rotation. And ever since they let Charlie go to Atlanta, they've tried to replicate that, and it hasn't worked out too well for them.
Right.
It's like you guys should have just paid Charlie his $14 million and stay in the rotation instead of doing all this again.
Yeah, but that's like 30% of what their entire roster is.
I know.
Womp, womp.
I'm not sure that again.
As long as you do like the opening stanza, we're good to go. So the Rays had 7 runners stranded last night, which
has been one of their biggest issues all year long is they can't hit guys in scoring position. And that's going to be a big thing when you're going into the playoffs is if you guys have runners on the base, you got to get them in.
You have to make moves for bats, man.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, man, listen, Stu, listen, guys in the front office, stop coveting. Thank you. Put me on solo. Thank you. Stop coveting these guys so much and just make the moves. Just listen. It's okay to not be the top dogs in the farm system. It's okay. That's okay. It really is. You don't have to be number one. Being number one in the farm system doesn't mean anything to anybody. So it's okay if you drop out of the top 5 for a season or two. If you I'd rather have you guys win a championship than being the top dog in the farm system, because you're not getting a participation trophy for that. You're getting nothing. So you can take me out of solo now.
I like it. But you're right. You're 100% right. And look, it is a weird dynamic because the Rays have this great farm system that we talk about, but nobody wants the players.
And the thing is, they're not helping themselves out either, because the guys that they're bringing up that are top prospects aren't really doing that well in the majors right now.
Right. So then what should your formula be?
Yeah.
Move them before they come and
Move
prove
them
us
before they
you're
come
wrong.
up. Yeah. Try not to have a lot of guys on the IL too.
Right. Like it's a weird situation for me of once these guys come up, then they're kind of, I don't want to say they're exposed because I feel like that's demeaning to and it could be a transition period where they're like, oh God, the game is a little bit different.
I wouldn't say they're exposed. I would say it's more like they're just not ready yet. They're still not ready to be.
And that's a fair assessment.
And and Danny, that's not their fault. That's not at all. It's just they are up here because they are filling in for the time being with the guys that are on the IL. So it's not their fault. It's just, hey, we've got to fill in the spots that we're hurting on, and it is what it is. So you guys have to play to the level that you're at right now. And if you're not ready yet, look, it's just the way that you guys have to get there, because that we need you right now. So it's not their fault. It's just the hand that they've been dealt right now because of injuries.
I'm gonna ask you 2 questions here, and then we're gonna jump off the Rays for the day.
Sure.
We're gonna talk a lot about
Football. Yeah.
Do the Rays, the way that the roster is currently built, right now with all of the injuries, are the Rays good enough to make the postseason? And is this a championship caliber roster, or should they make a trade to build in and make this a championship caliber roster?
You already know my answer for this. Yes, they're good enough to make the playoffs right now, but no, they're not going to be a championship caliber team. They have to make moves.
Are there enough moves that they could make this season to be a championship team, though? Or is that kind of just like a pipe dream of going, yeah, I'd like to win a World Series, but is that just kind of too far out of reach with having too many of our actual star players out?
I don't think it's out of the reach of where you could make those moves to go to the mountaintop. It's just if you're going to be putting together the correct packages to entice these teams to trade their players. Because it is. I mean, you really have to offer up what these other teams want. And if you're not going to, offer up what they want, you're not going to get the guys you want. And other teams are going to come in and make a better offer and scoop them up. So you really kind of have, like, Stu and them really have to put their poker faces on and really kind of put their hands out and say, hey, this is what we want to offer to you guys.
And make moves. How many moves do you think they are away? Are they 3?
3. You need another catcher. You need a pitcher. You need another power bat.
There it is.
That's what they need.
3 moves. You heard it here. You heard it here from
if they make 2 out of the 3, they're good. If you only make 1, you're still going to be in the same position that you're at.
I agree with that.
You got to make 2 out of the 3.
I do agree with that. What do you think? What would you rank them in terms of importance?
That's a good question. I think they're all pretty much in the same rankings as importance, because starting pitcher is a must. Is a must. I mean, you also do need. I mean, look, you need a catcher and a power bat. They're all in. I think they're all ranked the same way. You're not going to rank them like 1, 2, and 3.
What are they doing with Bethancourt, the catcher they just traded for with Oakland?
They've been kind of like using him as a DH,
right? But like he traded for a catcher, and like you
listen. If
we needed a catcher,
listen, if Contreras is available, which he is, I'm making a call. Okay, I'm gonna make a call, because Bethancourt's more like a Swiss Army knife, where you can use him as a utility. Right. He's more of a utility player guy than he is a catcher. So if Contreras is available, I'm gonna go make a trade for Contreras.
I agree.
So
totally agree with you. You know who you're not going to agree with? Did you see what this anonymous defensive coordinator said about your boy, our boy, Lamar Jackson?
I wonder what this anonymous coach is basing this on.
I don't know. But he said, I don't give a shit if he wins the league MVP 12 times. I don't think he'll ever be a 1 as a quarterback.
Okay, so 1 as in what?
The
I
best quarterback, like a QB1.
It must have been like Stephen A. Smith or somebody, or
it was
must
an
have been-
anonymous NFL defensive coordinator.
That's an ESPN analyst quote. That's not a coach.
Here's what I don't like is I hate when, and I understand why. Like, first of all, I understand like they can't be like Todd Bowles of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers says Kyler Murray is an awful quarterback. Like, I understand why there's like the anonymous aspect to it, but I hate when like you have something like so scathing coming from an anonymous person. Like, if you're that bitter and that upset with somebody, put your name to it, man.
I just don't see how can you not call him a QB1? He's a QB1 on every team. If you put him on any team, he's a QB1 no matter what. Even if
I don't
put him
understand how you can win the league MVP 12 times and not be the best quarterback in the league. Like, what?
Yeah, that quote makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, you can put him on the one of the crap. You could put him on. You could put him. No offense, Danny. You can put him on the Lions, and he's a QB1. You could put him on the. You could put him on.
Put me on the Lions, and I'd be a QB1. Let's be
right.
real.
I just understand that quote. So you're telling me if you win the MVP 12 times, you're not a QB1. Then what are you ranked? Are you a QB2 or QB3? What tier are you on? This guy must be smoking. This guy must be smoking crack. That statement makes no sense whatsoever.
That's just somebody that does not like Lamar Jackson as a human being. It sounds like to me.
Must be a Steelers coach or somebody.
It's got to be Steelers, Browns, Bengals, somebody that's in that division, because that doesn't make sense.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it really doesn't. Training camp opens tomorrow. That's exciting because that means football is on the way. The Buccaneers have a lot. They have a loaded wide receiver room. They have 10 total wide receivers on the roster currently. 3 of the usually 6 is what they'll roll into the season with. 3 of the slots are obviously already decided with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Russell Gage. That leaves. Are you ready for this laundry list of wide receivers?
Oh, I'm ready.
Scotty Miller, Cyril Grayson, Tyler Johnson, Brashad Perriman, Devin Tompkins, Jalen Darden, and Jareth Stearns. Only 3 of those guys are going to make the team.
That's good depth.
And so you got to wonder, okay, who's going to make the team? They signed Brashad Perriman in the offseason for a reason. They brought him back for a reason. The only reason they let him go the first time is because he wanted more money than the team could offer at the time. So he went to Baltimore. Didn't work out because Baltimore doesn't really pass the ball outside of Mark Andrews.
That's why Lamar's not a QB1.
Right, because of the scheme. It's his fault.
It's his fault.
It's his fault. Devin Tompkins, Jalen Darden, of course, were undrafted free agents that they signed. And Jareth Stearns they drafted. Scotty Miller is a huge fan favorite. I don't know if Scotty Miller makes this team this year, man.
I disagree. I think he's there. I think Brady likes him too much to have him not be on the team because he is kind of like that Wes Welker-esque type player, that Julian Edelman type player.
Yeah, but I think that's what he has with Tyler Johnson. We saw that last year.
True. No, I think Scooter makes the team.
So who do you have making the team? Do you think it's Scotty Miller? I feel like Brashad Perriman has to make the team.
Perriman will make it. How many can we have?
3.
Oh, 3 of the 6. Oof.
3 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So I would go. I'll go Perriman. Man, that's a tough one.
It is
because I want to put Jalen Darden in there because Darden looked pretty good too last year.
Yep,
and you can use him on special teams.
And Cyril Grayson seemed to develop a rapport with Tom Brady last season as well.
Right.
That's why I feel like Scotty might be the odd man out.
So you're saying Johnson, Miller, and then Perryman.
I'm gonna say I feel like you have to sign. I feel like you have to bring Bashad Perryman. I'm gonna say Perryman,
Johnson,
Darden, and
Darden.
Johnson. It's a toss up between Grayson and Johnson.
Jarson.
It's a toss up between Grayson and Johnson for me at that third spot. And then this is like assuming that they don't even sign one of the currently available free agent wide receivers.
Well, look at it this way, Danny. This is a good problem they have because they're being optimistic now about Godwin being ready for week 1 too.
Yeah.
So this bumps up one of those guys.
Right.
Out of all of them, I think it's a good problem to have, but not for those guys.
Right, yeah.
Because they're going to be left off, and they're like, well, I could be on the practice squad or I can go somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So it's definitely it's
a good problem to have.
It is. I feel like
plain simple.
Could you imagine the havoc that would be caused in Bucs fan base if Scotty Miller doesn't make the team?
You would have an uproar of a tiny niche portion of the fan base.
That's like the Kyle Trask fan base.
Yes. Well, no, that's totally different. You have that niche fan portion of the fan base because of that catch against Green Bay in the NFC Championship.
That's true.
Like, oh my God, like you're gonna cut this guy that caught that pass. Like, I like Scooter. I think he's a good wide receiver. He's got the speed on him.
I agree.
But
yeah, I think, and that's what makes it difficult because you look at Scotty Miller and go, okay, yeah, he's a good wide receiver. But if he doesn't make the team, that doesn't mean he's a bad wide receiver or they viewed him as a bad wide receiver. That's saying, hey, these guys outperformed him in training camp.
Right.
We
just don't have the room, so deal with it.
Right. Yeah. Like we can't roll into the season with 9 wide receivers on the roster because if somebody at another position goes down, we are going to be Scotty Miller going to fill in at linebacker.
Hey, good.
Good Lord. As we're talking about wide receivers, FanDuel put this out, which I love these because it's very fun. First of all, before we even talk about this, what an embarrassment of riches for each of these teams. Is it not? Of just like, I mean, it's insane. And honestly, if I'm being totally honest, if I look at this, or FanDuel obviously says rank them between the Bengals, Buccaneers, and Los Angeles Rams wide receiving core, I feel like that is actually the proper order.
I disagree with you.
Are you gonna put Bucks 1?
Bucks 1. See, and then with the Bengals and the Rams, it's a little tough for me because Robinson is going to be coming into this system as kind of like the new guy on the team because he wasn't there. He was on Chicago last year.
Right.
And listen, Jefferson was a real surprise last year at really filling in for OBJ.
Especially if you had him on fantasy.
Especially which I did. I picked him off waivers.
Nice.
So I'll put Bucks 1, Bengals 2, and then Rams 3. And I'll put the Bengals there. And I'm really hesitant about the Bengals being at number 2 because, look, Jamar Chase's season last season was nothing short of spectacular. But that could be a flash in the pan because he's in year 3 now, right?
Year 2.
So year 2, you could have a drop off because now defenses really know how to defend you.
It's entirely possible for sure.
And I also say this though, like the first half of the season, he was kind of absent, and then the second half, maybe it was flipped around. Like the first half, he was like on fire. He was torching everybody. He was scoring touchdowns left and right. And then you had a portion of the season where, for a few weeks he was really quiet. He was really silent. So he wasn't like a Mike Evans where Mike Evans was really consistent throughout the season. Jamar Chase was, he was almost like a half season guy where you would have him there. He was there catching passes, but he wasn't like tearing it up like he was on the first half. But I'm just worried about it for how year 2 is going to be. You know what I mean? Because now,
and that's definitely a fair worry,
right? And then for the Rams, look, I'm putting up Rams number 3 because out of the 3 guys, Cooper Kupp is pretty much it on that team. Like
Right.
Allen,
Maybe we see a resurgence of Allen Robinson.
right. Because I don't know how Allen Robinson is going to do in this new system. Is he probably going to break out and be good like Allen Robinson we all thought he was going to be? Maybe.
Right. Or was he in Chicago rotting on the bench for too long?
Yeah, exactly. And then Van Jefferson is, he's that number 3 guy on the depth chart, which is he's a pretty good pass catcher, but he's not like he's not a superstar caliber number 3.
Correct.
So I'm going Bucks, Bengals, Rams.
See, the reason why I like the only reason why I like the Bucks at number 2 is because we know what we're going to get with the top 3 for the Bengals.
Right.
And I think that Tyler Boyd is the X factor over Russell Gage. And that's the only reason I have that is because we don't know what we're going to get with Russell Gage in Tampa. We don't know like where Russell Gage is going to be as a wide receiver. Right.
It's almost like saying that with Allen Robinson too. You don't really know what you're going to get.
Yep. Correct. And that's the only reason why, maybe it's like a 1A, 1B kind of situation.
Right.
Now, if we're talking about the Bucks, last season, entering the season with Evans, Godwin, and Antonio Brown,
that's
number 1 by far.
Right.
By far number 1.
I can see why you put them in number 1 because those 3 guys have been playing together for the past 2-3 years.
Right. And then you've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase obviously played together at LSU, which translated very well to Jamar Chase's rookie season. He's now going to have his 3rd straight season with T. Higgins and with Tyler Boyd. And T. Higgins is very often slept on. If you were a T. Higgins owner in fantasy, you were loving life because sure, I had Jamar Chase. So there were games where I'm like, yeah, 50 points from Jamar Chase. Like, holy crap, no one's going to beat me. I outscored an entire team with Jamar Chase alone. But T. Higgins is quietly throwing up 20, 25 points a game, right? So it's like, and then Tyler Boyd's no slouch, but he was kind of the odd man out. And if your odd man out is Tyler Boyd, who was the wide receiver 1 for the last handful of years, that's a pretty good problem to have.
That's pretty good, as Larry David would say. Pretty good.
I love Curb Your Enthusiasm, by the way.
That's a great show.
Fantastic show. It really is. Todd Bowles still getting no love. They just released the NFL futures for Coach of the Year. He's 14th in terms of favorites. Now I get it. Coach of the Year usually means you took a bad team and you turn it into a good team, right? I get that. Until you look at who's favorited, and favorite is Brandon Staley, who took a good team and kept them good.
Who's above him in this list?
I will rattle all of these off. So you got Brandon Staley.
Okay.
I agree with the next 2. You got Brian Daboll. Giants were terrible last year. Nathaniel Hackett out in Denver. I'm okay with that because the Broncos were a quarterback. Well, maybe I'm not even okay with that because the Broncos were a quarterback away from being a contender. Doug Peterson at 3. I can get with that.
I can get with that too.
Kyle Shanahan at number 4. How are you? And this is where it's hard for me because the Coach of the Year is supposed to be based off of exactly what I just said it is. You took a bad team and you made them good.
Well, then I can see this. I can see why he's so down in the rankings.
Right. But not when you have Kyle Shanahan at number 4. You were in the NFC Championship. And all you lost was Mike McDaniel. You didn't lose any players.
This is why these lists are ridiculous sometimes.
Well, these are Vegas odds. These aren't just like some guy was like, hey,
this is what I think. Or maybe there's...
I mean, I guess technically it was a guy saying, hey, this is what I think. But number 5 is Mike McDaniel.
Okay.
Kevin O'Connell, Josh McDaniels. And like, why is like Josh McDaniels so far down the list, but Brandon Staley is favorited when it literally came down to Brandon Staley gaffing a coaching decision.
Yeah, this list, I have nothing on this list. I can't figure out this list. Why?
So the reason why I'm going through this is because I'm trying to figure out, like, if I'm putting money on, if I'm putting money down on somebody, who am I going to put money on? I'm not comfortable putting it on Brian Daboll. I guess, you know what?
No, I'm definitely not putting my money on Brian Daboll. Not with that. Not with the Giants. No.
But to win Coach of the Year, I don't know.
No.
Sean
If
McDermott,
I maybe want to put a long shot bet for him to win it, yeah, I'll do that maybe for my betting odds.
maybe Matt Eberflus. He's plus 4,000. He's towards the bottom of the list. He's fourth from the bottom. Would he be the one with Minnesota?
Maybe. I'm fine with
Or no,
Todd.
Eberflus is in Chicago, isn't he?
I'm fine with Todd being in this position where he's at because I say that because he's coming into a good situation.
Right, 100%. But it's puzzling to me why he's where he's at when it doesn't make.
I think it's more or less of the lines of these coaches that are coming into almost brand new situations and inheriting what they had from the previous coaching staff that they had. Because Todd inherited a team that he already knows what this team can do and the level of playing that this team can do. And it was more like we're just passing the baton to Todd. It's almost like a seamless transition. Well, these other coaches, a lot of these guys were hired into new situations. You know what I mean? Like Daboll's a prime example. He's coming into the Giants, which the Giants are still a mess. It's not a seamless transition from one coach to another because
in some way they can win more games than they lose.
Exactly. So maybe that's what they're basing on is, hey, we've got a lot of these. How many new coaches do we have this year?
I think 8.
8. So almost double digit coaching, new head coaches that are coming into new situations that, there's only 2 really new head coaches I can think of that were promoted within. That's Bowles, and then that's the coach for the Saints.
Right.
So you have two of those exceptions that are on the team before. They weren't hired from the outside. The rest of these guys were hired in from the outside and bringing in a whole new scheme of everything, whole new culture, whole new coaching staff, whole new everything. So if that's what they're basing this list on, I can see why he's so low on the list because a lot of these guys are just, hey, we're year one head coaches for these teams, and we're bringing in something brand new. Like even Josh McDaniels is an example too. Josh McDaniels came into a total shit show because of what the Raiders had to go through, personnel wise, coaching wise, everything wise. And then going back to a guy like Daboll, he's pretty much starting from scratch with this team.
I don't even think he's ready to start from scratch with this team yet. I think that's how messy the Giants are.
And plus, he's a first year head coach. A lot of these guys are first year head coaches. Like McDaniel's a first year head coach. Daboll's a first year head coach. Coach in Chicago's like a lot of these guys are first year head coaches. So I think that's why they're ranking these guys so far high in the list. Is the odds for them to be that coach of the year is let's put them on the rankings. There's a possibility that they could be coach of the year with being a year one coach and maybe molding a team that was really bad the last year into a good team to the improvement level. You know what I mean?
Sure. There's a 3-way tie right before Todd Bowles with Kevin Stefanski, Dan Campbell, and Bill Belichick. So let's rewind everything that we've been discussing.
Okay, so let me take everything I just said and throw it out the window.
And that's what's puzzling about these.
I have no clue then about this list.
I usually I'm a fan of player props, right?
Actually, you know what, Danny? I'm not going to throw everything out the window because in Cleveland, it's still up in the air about who their quarterback's going to be.
Right.
New England still has a lot of stuff to still figure out. Yeah, so I think this has to go along the lines of is this coach going to be able to coach the roster that he has because of all the personnel moves and changes that they've had to gone through? With Bulls, they've had an established team already for the past 3 years.
Essentially, all 22 starters.
Yeah, and minor player losses too. They've only really had a few players. Look, Antonio Brown is gone because he's crazy and he's out of the league. Ali Marpet retired. They've only had, Yeah, Alex Kappa to the Bengals. So other than that, personnel changes have been really minimal when it comes to players.
Right.
And they haven't really lost any coaches at all. So yeah, I'm taking everything back what I just said. Because of the other coaches above him on the list, they have to deal with all the new personnel, coaching, whatever changes it may be in the organization. So yes, I'm okay with saying everything I just said before that.
Okay.
And that's my story I'm sticking to.
Kyler Murray, we're gonna have to rule him out of a possible Tampa Bay stint after this season.
You know why? Because Lamar's coming down here.
Did you see the addendum for Kyler Murray's contract?
I saw that.
He has to watch 4 hours. Like, you got a homework assignment as part of your contract. Is this something that we didn't realize was a big issue for Kyler Murray? Of like, you just don't watch game film, or like, what the hell are you doing, dude?
I think this should be in every player's contract.
You know what? Maybe it is. Maybe we just nobody's ever put light on it.
You know why? Because this kind of reminds me of when Jamarcus Russell was drafted. He got that huge player one of the largest in player history. And one of his biggest issues was he didn't watch film.
Right.
There's even a story. I forget who told it. It was on the Dan Patrick show. Not Dan Patrick. It was on a Rich Eisen show where it was this story where one of the coaches gave him a CD of game film to watch, and Jamarcus said he watched it, and the coach was like, "There's no way. There was nothing on that CD."
Gives you a blank DVD.
Maybe a blank DVD, so you couldn't have because it was blank. I think this is a great job by the Arizona Cardinals. Look, if you want all this money, you have to be able to do what we ask you to do, is watch film and be a player evaluator of schemes and everything. This is fantastic. I love it.
You know what's crazy to me is how much of a Gen, I think we're in Gen Z now, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much of a Gen Z thing is it when you look at paragraph 3 of section 3 when it says
independent study?
For the avoidance of doubt, players shall not receive any credit for independent study with respect to any time periods if it's done on an iPad or an electronic device.
Wow.
Because where does it say? Players engage in any other activity that may distract his attention, watching TV, playing video games, or browsing the internet. Like, how crazy, how much of a Gen Z thing is that to where we're like, yo, get off of TikTok and get your shit done.
Get off of Instagram. Quit sliding in the DMs and do your job. I think this is I love this. It's holding these young players accountable, especially the ones that are getting large contracts.
Right.
I wonder if there's a voided part of that contract where if you are not studying film, all money will be voided, or like a certain number of monies will be avoided if you're not, watching game film. I wonder if there is something like that.
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to put that stuff in writing, there's got to be like a fail safe for it.
Like, hey, if we find out that you were not watching any film, like, you are going to be penalized, or you're not going to get any of this full contract. Although there's $160 million guaranteed.
It's freaking ridiculous.
So Danny, let me ask you. So, okay, we've got Deshaun, who's $230 million guaranteed. You have now Kyler's contract, which is $160 million guaranteed with all the incentives afterwards after that. Going back to the Lamar thing, like, he's got to be almost clapping and chomping at, okay, well, if these guys are getting this type of guaranteed money for their contracts, I've got to at least get better money than Kyler Murray.
Right. I think he's looking at probably like the low 200s for guarantees.
He's got to look at it as, I think he might even try and look, like, Deshaun hasn't played pretty much in 2 years.
Right.
I should be getting more guaranteed than Deshaun. You know what
right.
I mean?
100%. And I feel like,
and I don't think Baltimore's going to be doing that. I don't think Baltimore's going to give him that kind of money.
How crazy would it be if that was the Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator? That had honestly,
hey, you never know. You never know.
You
don't know. That's why these two quarterback signings with Murray and Watson really hurts. It hurts the Ravens. It's going to work well for Lamar, but it hurts the Ravens, like, wanting to maybe sign him for a team-friendly deal, because he's not going to want that. He's going to be like, look, I want this type of money, and I know the Ravens are not going to spend.
Right. And all of these guys just keep crapping on me in the media. You guys aren't even doing any. You're not getting players around me.
You're not helping.
You're not even like doing damage control and being like, no, Lamar Jackson's a legit quarterback. Like they could do what the Miami Dolphins do, where they're posting video clips of Lamar dropping dimes in practice and in OTAs and stuff, but they're not doing that.
Right.
They're showing Lamar hitting the gym. Sure. Lamar is like DK Metcalf size now. Sure. But we see videos of Saquon Barkley looking like a beast all the time, and he unfortunately just can't seem to stay on the field. So showing somebody being jacked up, that doesn't do anything for the doubters and the detractors that are saying like, yeah, Lamar's not bad for a running back. That's going to be the quote associated with him for his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Before we wrap up, thank you for everybody that was tuning in today. And jumping in the comments on the Twitter. Definitely appreciate that. Starting the beginning of August, Channelside in the Morning will be exclusive to YouTube. So if you're not following on YouTube, make sure you search for the Channelside Sports Network. Hit that subscribe button, jump in the chat, and let's do the damn thing. And we've got a limited edition t-shirt that is available for sale.
I like it.
You guys asked for it, and now it is here. The Unfinished Business World Tour of a particular football team in Tampa that we are not going to actually associate the name with because we don't want to get any copyright infringements. There it is. You guys wanted it. It's available. The link is in our profile on our Twitter account where you guys were all asking for it. You actually can buy it directly from Twitter through us, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that was a thing to do. But we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to do it all over again on a hump day edition of Channelside in the Morning. I am Danny. That is Evan. This was Channelside in the Morning live from the Channelside Sports Network. See ya.